Welcome back, everyone, and I am doing a more in-depth look at Thorn in this video, being that she is one of my favorites so far. I kind of briskly went through her in the last video, but I don't know if all of you actually made it to the end, and I kind of rushed through it because that video was going long. So I absolutely have fallen in love with Thorn. There's just something about her gameplay that I like. Makes the satisfaction of kind of nailing that arrow shot. I like the curse mechanic, but much like I played Maya with my Twisted Pimp, I wasn't doing the spray and pray Sandhawk. I like the Pimpernel for like that one powerful shot to really nail them, and I like that kind of sniper or shotgun style of just landing that one massive punch, rather than just holding down the trigger and, spraying it all over the place. Now, this is the early access preview, not the beta, so unfortunately I don't have everything I had in the other one. I don't have a lot of her stuff unlocked because I didn't play her that much in the early access. I was doing more Arendi in that. But now I've switched to all Thorn. So anyways, on her main screen, you have Nature's Curse. This is one thing I really like about her. So enemies hit with a charged arrow are highlighted and cursed for 8 seconds. Skills in charged arrows deal 25% additional damage to cursed targets. Now, there's more ways to curse enemies or make your arrows curse with their helix tree, but 25% damage is a lot in a game like this. This isn't Borderlands. This is a PvP game, so your numbers are a lot smaller. You're not going to see those crazy, massive boosts that you saw in Borderlands. I'll probably make that mistake a few times. Her weapon, the Kreshek, is the bow, and I also like the mechanics of you can either fire off a bunch of quick arrows, or when you pull it back, not only the curse, but when you pull it back, the arrow's drop is reduced, the speed's picked up. There's a few times where there's some off of the distance snipers, and I would hold back that curse shot, hit them, and then the second shot I'm like, oh, I'll just quick pop that off to finish them because they don't have much life, but that arrow would fall short of hitting them. So your range extends, the drop is reduced, and the speed is picked up. And I kind of like that mechanic. It puts more skill into the shooting, and I like skill-based things, even though I'm not the most skilled of first-person shooters. The talent, the vitality, is just the rapid health generation. She is surprisingly durable. I think most of it is actually her mobility, which isn't really durability, but she can survive quite a bit. I think part of that is, like I said, her ability to move, but if you stack some healing items on her, you can really get a lot, and I'll go over that gear later. Now, her skill 1 is the volley, where you fire 5 arrows, each dealing 61 damage, and they can ricochet off world terrain, which really helps. Blight is a decent-sized AoE, summoning a field of corruption for 6 seconds. Enemies caught within this field take 60 damage every 0.5 seconds. So that's a lot of damage over time if they stay in there. Usually they get out of there. Now, you can use this in a couple of ways. You can use it to kind of block them from you, or you can just center them on it and hope they don't move. At least in story mode, there are things like the Beastmasters, who when they go in their summoning animation, you just center it right on them, and then all the little thralls, they pop out. Not thralls, what are those guys called? All those little guys, they pop out, kind of die in it, but since they're standing still in animation, they take that full damage or close to it. And then you have Wrath of the Wild. In my first Thorn video, like way back months ago, when I was just looking at a website, I was kind of underwhelmed like this. I thought it was kind of generic. Originally, Thorn was supposed to have like some like pet spirit wolf, and it was supposed to be with that, and they had to scrap that for one reason or another. It just didn't work. And this kind of seemed like a generic kind of cop-out fill-in. And I still kind of feel that way. It doesn't really fit with her archery. It doesn't necessarily fit with Blight as a big green ball. But it just kind of seemed thrown in there a little bit. Didn't really match that stuff, match her theme that well, but it is very effective. So I'm kind of willing to take a pass on it. Now, going into her helix, when I talk about a build, in this game, builds are different than they were in Borderlands. In Borderlands, builds were just, you kind of had a static build. You had your mobbing build, maybe you had specific raid boss builds, you might have a peak build or just kind of some fun builds. But in this game, you level up on the fly, and your build should be different. And not only a story mode build and a co-op build, but sometimes your PvP, story mode or co-op, this is the same thing. Co-op story or PvP. But even in that, your incursion build might be different from your meltdown build. And I might have a build based on enemies I'm facing in PvP. I might have a build based on my teammates. And that's what I'm going to go through on these. So, in the first one, Swampfoot, enemies damaged by blight are slowed, or the volleys go through multiple targets. Now, if I am in a team with a lot of heavy damage dealers, but I still want to play Thorn, a sniper always comes in handy, being able to hit the spiders from longer distance or take out turrets from a safer range so my allies can get in there. The volleys going through multiple targets might not help that much. Now, if I'm playing more of a DPS role, I'm going to go with that one, but if I'm playing more of a support sniper, which you can kind of do here, the slowdown on the blight can actually help more because, you know, obviously slowing down enemies is going to help your teammates kill them. I don't think it was them. It was when I was playing Marquis more than her, but there was times where me and a teammate threw down, I was playing with an Oscar Mike, and he threw down his napalm the same time I threw down my time distortion multiple times. And it was like a beautiful combo, because that does so much damage, and then you make it harder for them to get out of there. They take more damage, it's great. So, you know, combining this with that and having good team play on that can really work. So sometimes you're better off with Swampfoot, and sometimes you're better off with Volley. In story mode, I almost always go with Volley, because then I'm more concerned, less concerned with slowing down the enemies and that and just killing them fast. But that said, the Volley, I lean towards Volley more often than not. But there are times, depending on my teams and all that stuff, where I will go with Swampfoot instead. So on this tier, we have Cursed Earth. When Thorn is touching Blightfield, all of her arrows become cursed. Then there is the Thorn receives a short speed burst when touching Blight's field. In this tier, I really don't ever go for Fellwind. Thorn is already one of the most mobile characters in the game. And like I said in the other video, when you touch the Blightfield and you can make all your arrows cursed, you really up your DPS. Now, also Blight doesn't have the biggest range on it. So what I mentioned earlier, I'm playing in PvP, but I'm going to try to keep myself at range behind my front line of Isaac and melee characters and all this stuff and kind of snipe, especially at those big smiter tanks and turrets, and try to take that stuff out. This is really helpful. So I can put it down on my feet, just stand in it, and just pop shots all day, and they're all going to do a lot more damage. And because I can just pop those shots without needing to pull my full draw, I can get a lot more shots off and really crank my damage up with her. So that's why I usually go with Cursed Earth. This is one of those fields that it's almost always the same choice for me, but I have seen some people go to that movement speed. I just rarely feel with Thorn that I need more movement speed. Now, on tier 3, you have Draw Strength on the left with a Curse Weaver. Arrows penetrate multiple targets. I definitely like this. This works great in story mode, obviously, because there's a lot of times you have a lot of enemies lined up, and you can put them through a bunch. It's kind of like Boar if you know, for 0 players without the damage increase. But even in most of your PvP modes, you rarely have two Battleborns lined up to shoot, but killing the minions is important. And the minions are pretty slow and easy to line up. So it's pretty simple. Pull back an arrow, charge it, let it go, kill two of those little bots with one arrow. It's just efficient. Also, the volley destroys those guys. The next one, burst propulsion. Now, if you're playing more close quarters, this one can definitely be better. If the other team has a lot of melee characters, you might want to switch from death strength to burst propulsion, because this will allow you to get away from them when they're coming in to kill you. Really comes in handy with like Wrath and Galea, who are very, very threatening enemies. So I might plan on going on draw strength, but once I see that the opposing team's draw, if they're heavy on melee characters, and let's say we're doing Meltdown, which can get pretty tight, and Incursion can too, I might switch to this. If the team is more ranged and has less of a melee threat, let's say they have like 1-2 melee guys and the rest well, you have Miko, 2 melee and 2 ranged, I might go for draw strength. But if they have 3 or 4 melee, which you do see, I'm definitely going burst. So this tier really kind of shows the difference in there. Like I said, story mode, pretty much always draw strength. Now, tier 4 here, we have the Judgment, where the volley arrows curse target on hit. This I absolutely love. Or you have volley shots, shoots 2 additional arcs in a wider arc. Now, this one has a mutator as well, that you do 2 less arrows, but each arrow does 66% more damage. Now, if you do the math here, 66 on 3 arrows is 198. If you're going percent-wise on 100. The arrows aren't 100, I know that. But 2 arrows at 100 would be 200. So slightly less overall damage. I was talking to someone about this today. But the thing where that comes in sometimes better, if you're facing more single targets, you're going to land those 3 arrows, but you're probably not going to land all 5 unless the target is really wide. So if you're concentrating on more single targets, the additional mutator you can gain on this tier is great. But volley causing curse is fantastic, because if you curse them pre-volley and then that volley really hits them hard, or just that volley cursing a lot of things and your follow-ups doing a lot more, either way it's pretty spectacular. There's a lot of good options here, either in the extra mutator that would be in the middle if I still had that unlocked. The curse. Now, the wider arc, this one in story mode can actually be pretty fantastic, because each arrow is doing 61 damage, I think. So that's adding a lot of damage there, while keeping all of your arrows. So that one technically has the most damage. Now, on the big bosses that you see in story mode, that really comes in handy. Also in story mode, you have a lot of minions tightly packed together where this can destroy them. Or even in Meltdown, this can be really good. If your focus in Meltdown is more making sure the bots don't get in rather than necessarily just focusing on the killers, because obviously in Meltdown you gotta make sure their opposing bots don't get in there, you can wipe out that group of bots that comes through really fast with knockout here. I mean, 7 arrows from Thorn, that's a lot of damage, especially if you throw a blight on there first, so you kind of weaken them and then hit them all with that. And even more so if you have piercing volley, because then those 7 ones are going to hit the first few and keep going through, and even if they hit the ground, they bounce off the ground and jump up and hit. So you have 3 really good choices here depending on the mode and what you are doing and what you are doing in that mode. If you are going to be more focusing on the Battleborn, you're better with your center one. If you're going to be trying to make sure those minions don't get through, knockout is good. If you're going to really focus in on even incursion on the minions and the spider tanks, if you have a lot of good assassins on your team, knockout can even be the best for that. Because like I said, those big spider tanks you have to kill have a good amount of health, and knockout will do a ton of damage to them because you're going to hit with all 7 arrows, and that's going to take a chunk out of them. So next is Hextension. Increase curse bonus damage on afflicted enemies. You get 10% more damage, so now you're going to 35. I think these are all additive. I don't think they're multiplicative buffs, but I haven't seen any math on that yet. And 4 seconds more duration, so it's normally 8. Now you're going to 12 seconds, and that's a pretty big deal. Or on the other side, you can add a dot to it. And since curse lasts for 8 seconds, that 12% is a lot of damage. This one is tight. I don't necessarily know which one is better. Hex has potential for more damage, I believe, but you're not necessarily going to hit him with a second cursed arrow all the time. And what I've seen in a lot of PvP, at least, is you'll see an enemy kind of go up on a sniper perch, and I'll draw back, charge my arrow, hit them, and I'll bring them down to like 20% health, where like if they get hit again, they're down, and they just run. Now, if you have a dot on them, you have a better chance of finishing them off. Now, if they went up there without full health and full shield, this really helps one-shot them, because as they run away, they're taking a lot of damage. So, yeah, I mean, I think that, yeah, it'll do over 100 damage to one dot. So it's a tough one. It kind of depends on how you're playing. Now, going down to tier 6 here, you can affect the blight damage or the volley's cooldown. This is another tough one that's almost a balance out. Now, once again, volley puts out a ton of damage. So that 20% cooldown is going to add a lot to your DPS, being able to volley more often. But blight can last for a long time, so this one kind of depends, maybe less on your matchup and more on your other spec. So for example, if you were going for, well, Swampfoot, maybe it's later in the tree. Yeah, it's later. So if you're going up here to Enduring Blight, adding 6 seconds to it, you might want to increase that damage, because now that dot's lasting even longer. But if you're going Cursed Earth here instead of Fellwind, and you're spending a lot of time standing in your own Blight and not necessarily always putting it on enemies, then you probably want Volley. Because, you know, cursed volleys out of a blight field are going to do a lot of damage. So this one to me kind of depends on how I spec. Also, I think I forgot to cover it. On this tier there, I believe it's tier 5 here, there is another center mutator you can get where cursed enemies take 100% of the cursed bonus damage. Not all damage, your bonus damage from cursed. 100% of that penetrates shields. So if you are taking that one at this tier, then I'm going to go with that volley cooldown, because I'm going to stand in my own blight, then I'm going to hit them with a regular arrow, which will curse them, then I'm going to hit them with a volley that will absolutely destroy them. So I want good cooldown on my volley. If you are playing minion heavy, or sometimes in story mode, like I said, Blight in story mode can really wreck all those kind of lesser enemies. That can do a lot. Or if in Meltdown, you know, you're kind of playing that support sniper where you're using a lot of slowdown with Blight, or using Blight to really destroy those minion pushes, Brutal can be better. So down here, you have Eagle Eye. I haven't really found a good use for Eagle Eye. I said this in my other video. When I'm missing shots with Thorn, it's not that her bow isn't hitting what I'm aiming at. It's the fact that I'm missing. I'm not leading my targets well enough, or, you know, in PvP, guys move pretty sporadically, not, you know, slow and predictable like bots, making it really hard to lead on them because you're not guaranteed to know which direction they're going in. So in this one, I usually go with Vaulting Hunter, a nice little Easter egg there. And with this one, it just helps her survivability, but it also helps you get to places you can't otherwise get, and that can really help your survival. You can just be at have an advantage on your positioning on your enemies, or just big fast jumps are. It's hard to shoot someone when they're jumping all over the place. So if you need to escape, you kind of do your jump run away, and it really helps that. So tier 8 here. Increase Blight's effective duration. I really like this, or the cast distance. Now, I know there's probably a use case for that cast distance, because Blight does not have a long cast distance, and doubling it is a big deal, especially for enemies kind of running away. If you kind of shoot someone, they start running, you might kind of have that distance, if you shoot them somewhat up close, to make them run through that Blight to get away, and that could finish them off. Especially if they have a curse dot on them, if you took that and then they had to get through a Blight. But I end up just going with that duration most of the time. A few reasons why. Mostly, though, is because I usually go with Cursed Earth as well, as I said. And making Blight go from, what is the duration again? 6 seconds. So you're doubling the duration of Blight. And so 12 seconds having all of your shots cursed is pretty damn massive. Where am I? Down here. So I usually go with Enduring Blight for that reason. Also, sometimes I can throw out a Blight, kill everything in that Blight. The Blight's still there. Then I can step into the Blight and have all my arrows cursed. So you can kind of use it both ways, and it's going to get a little bit better in 2 tiers. Now, tier 9. This one depends a lot of times on my gear, to be honest. I've had different gear loadouts. I bought a lot of Eldred packs in the beta, and I got a lot of different survival items, enough where I could stack 3 different items that gave me health regeneration in different ways. Now, Thorn already has decent health regen, but when you added in 3 items of that, I really didn't need Archer's Boom because I had so much life gear on me. So I would go with that damage. But if I'm doing mostly damage gear, you better believe I'm going to go to Archer's Boon, because I'm not going to have the most survivability with her. You know, she is an Eldred, she doesn't have a shield, she's all health. So this one depends on where you're going. You know, the lifesteal is only on your volley, which has a shorter kind of cooldown, but it's not like adding lifesteal on all your attacks like some of the melee characters, or lifesteal on all your spells like a Rendy and you can just spam your spells constantly. So yeah, if you need that lifesteal, go with that, but I kind of recommend trying to take a lot of survival gear with Thorn and then moving in to the damage one there, because it's amazing how well you can survive with her if you stack some health regeneration on her. It's pretty fantastic. Lastly, you have her ultimate tier 10 boosts. So on the left hand side we have Wrath of Winds. The energy bomb bounces through the world up to 5 times, dealing less damage but detonating with every bounce. I've had a hard time making this work really well. In theory, on Meltdown this should be excellent, and I haven't really tested it on there like I should yet. I'll make sure to give that a try, because your Meltdown lanes are fairly tight, but even Incursion, when you're kind of going around that corner before that first tank, that's pretty tight, and letting this like bounce through there and just hit everything is good. But then again, on Incursion, I almost never got up to tier 10. I had games ending by the time I was tier 3, so maybe this isn't even an issue for that. In story mode, I didn't really see this working that well. And I was disappointed because it sounds really awesome. But on the second side of Earth Render, leaving a blight field behind, I really love this. So if you combine this with all of your other blight buffs, so here adding a 6-second duration to it, so now not only your Wrath of Wind, which does 500 damage in a big AoE, so it hits a lot of enemies, but if the enemies survive that, now they're taking a dot for up to 12 seconds. And it's a pretty good dot. So that's a lot of damage, but also, like I said before, sorry to get repetitive here, but chances are you killed a lot of things in there. So you can do that, do a ton of damage, run into your blight, and all your arrows are cursed again, or it's going to be hard for them to get out because of that. Or even here, if you go to Fell Wind, that's really awesome because you throw that blight, you kind of kill everything in there, and then you can get that movement speed. So I really love that idea of having that blight on there. I've even kind of like thrown like two next to each other, and just enemies have to run through two of them after they took a bunch of damage to get to me, and I'm just picking them off. So I really love that. But what I really wanted to demonstrate in this was that that ability to the ability to kind of have a dynamic build idea where it's not just this is my build, it's set in stone, is you should be building around the situation in this game. This is the way the developers made the game. This is why you always start off at level 1 and you can build differently every time. Not only to make the variation of your characters more, but you can adapt to the situation you are in. And I've seen a lot of videos just saying like, here is a build. But I just don't think that this game should be about, this is the one build. You should build to that. Earlier in the forums, people were talking about Isaac and how he's a pain in the butt. I did match up against Isaac in some PvP. No, not when I was playing with you, Strafe. You're going to say that. I was with you. But on opposing teams, Isaac's. Now, when he gets to his ulti, it's kind of a different, harder deal. But I did my Cursed Earth here, added in with the center one here, which I don't have shown, where you do it the 3 and they each do more damage. Now, Isaac's got the perfect hitbox of a head to hit him with all 3 of those, so they can all 3 crit. And if you're standing on the curse, it's all cursed, so you're getting that extra damage. And then the tier 5 center helix, which I had unlocked at that time, also penetrated the shields. So I could do stupid damage to Isaac and kill him really fast. And even when he was in his ulti, I didn't go up against that, but I would assume if I'm combining arms with another teammate, we could take him down with that kind of setup. Now, if there's not an Isaac on the other team, maybe I'm going with one of these two on this tier, not that shield penetration. But if I'm going up against Isaacs, I'm definitely picking those ones, as well as the volley damage here, not the lifesteal, so that I can counter Isaac. So you can even spec differently if there's one really threatening opponent on the other team where you've got a spec that can deal with that opponent. That's a damn good idea, because Isaac is also slow as hell, so it's going to be hard for him to get away once you start cursing him and hitting him hard. So these are some of the ideas where I think we should use more dynamic thinking in the builds of this game. And the point of this video is more than just like, oh, look at this Thorn stuff. It's how should we properly think about these builds, rather than just saying, well, this technically has the highest DPS, so it's the best. It's more situational. You know, what is your goal in the mode you are playing? What is your role in that? You know, Miko's probably a little more simplified because Miko's, you know, just going to mainly be healing all the time. So you really want to spec max healing. But some people have even changed that. If they have super healing gear, they don't really need to spec for that extra healing stuff. So they can spec for like more movement speed and some more self-survival for Miko. Because your extra healing, I think you can get an item that increases it by like 20%, which is nuts. So you should always change your build based on your loadout, your opponents, your game mode, and your role within your team. If you're playing with a good team, everyone kind of has a role. And Thorn here, for an example, you can, focus on a sniper. You can be a little more close quarters. You can, focus on minions, focus on Battleborn. You can play a lot of different roles with her. You can she's fast enough. You can try to sneak behind lines and, take out their turrets, and she can wear a lot of hats. But it depends on how you build her. So yeah, lots to think about. Let me know what you guys think, what opinions you have on that, and I will see you all later. Thanks for watching. Bye.